We didn't get along. We were four guys.
The Beatles have left an indelible mark on music history, celebrated for their groundbreaking creativity and lasting influence. However, behind their meteoric rise, there were whispers of discord and tension among the band members. Now, through the eyes of Ringo Starr, their legendary drummer, these stories come to light. Ringo Starr admits the Beatles had several rows at the height of fame. We didn't get along. What caused the strife? How did they manage to maintain their musical cohesion amid the turmoil? Join us as Ringo finally reveals the truth about how the Beatles didn't get along. Harmony amidst discord. In a candid new interview with Dan Rather for Access, Ringo Starr, now 83, opened up about the interpersonal dynamics within the Beatles. Reflecting on the legendary band's history, Starr admitted that they had their fair share of issues. No, we didn't always get along, the drummer said during the May 10th interview. We were four guys, and we had our rows. But once the count-in started, we all gave our best. This became more noticeable later on, which I think was a natural progression. Suddenly, we all had our own lives, and I had children. The effort we put in because we worked really hard started to pale a little, and we always thank Paul to this day. Starr emphasized that McCartney's work ethic played a crucial role in the Beatles' prolific output. Paul was the workaholic of our band. Because of him, we made a lot more records than John and I would have. We liked to sit around a little more, but then Paul would call, "All right, lads," and we'd go in. Indeed, the Beatles released 12 studio albums between 1963 and 1970, cementing their status as the highest-selling band of all time. Their legacy, however, was not without its tragedies. John Lennon was shot dead outside his New York City apartment on December 8, 1980, at age 40. George Harrison succumbed to cancer on November 29, 2001, at age 58. The internal strife within the band was further highlighted in the recent book, All You Need Is Love, The Beatles in Their Own Words, which features an extensive oral history compiled from candid interviews with best-selling author Stephen Gaines and Peter Brown. In the book, Harrison described Lennon as a piece of S and criticized his negative attitude and nastiness towards the other band members. Starr himself admitted he was pleased when the Beatles broke up in 1970 after weeks of fighting. "It was time," Starr said. "Things only last so long." Despite the band's breakup and the decades without new music, the Beatles surprised fans by releasing their final track, Now and Then, last year. Thanks to modern technology, both Lennon and Harrison were featured on the song, marking the band's first new tune since 1996's Real Love, which was originally written and recorded by Lennon in the 70s during his time in the Dakota Building on New York's Central Park West, the same place where he was tragically murdered. This interview and the new book offer a more nuanced look at the complexities of the Beatles' relationships and the forces that drove them to create some of the most enduring music in history. In this interview, Ringo also shared how he had been deeply immersed in the music industry since leaving the factory in 1960, consistently playing and producing records. Reflecting on his journey, he noted that many top-tier artists lose their sense of identity at the peak of their careers. However, he believed that he and his bandmates managed to stay grounded thanks to their shared background and mutual support. Whenever one of them started acting like a big shot, the others would step in to keep things in check. He recalled meeting Elvis Presley and feeling a sense of pity for him. Despite being surrounded by people, Elvis seemed isolated, whereas Ringo always had his three bandmates for support. This camaraderie among the Beatles helped them navigate the pressures of fame more effectively. Ringo admitted to hating practice and preferred learning by playing with other musicians, which he found more engaging. His early musical experiences in Liverpool, playing with neighbors and friends, laid the foundation for his career. Discussing the significant risk he took by leaving Rory Storm and the Hurricanes to join the Beatles, Ringo explained that, although the Hurricanes were more prominent at the time, he was drawn to John, Paul, and George's dynamic. They met in Germany and played at the same club, and their chemistry was evident. Despite others questioning his decision, Ringo had no hesitation in joining the Beatles. Ringo underscored that while the Beatles had their share of internal conflicts, these never detracted from their musical unity and collective success. The rumors of discord were part of their story, but they never overshadowed their shared commitment to the music. Despite the rumors of discord, Ringo's journey to the Beatles was shaped by his early musical influences and experiences. But what pivotal moments transformed a young factory worker into a Beatle? Stay tuned to find out the journey of Ringo. From raised in a rough neighborhood to Beatlemania beats, Richard Starkey, known as Ringo Starr, was born on July 7, 1940, at 9 Madron Street in Dingle, a neighborhood in Liverpool's inner city. He was the only child of confectioners Richard Starkey and Elsie Gleave. Elsie had a passion for singing and dancing, which she shared with her husband, who was an enthusiastic fan of swing music. Before their son, whom they affectionately called Richie, was born, the couple often enjoyed spending their free time on the local ballroom circuit. However, these outings became less frequent after his birth. Elsie, in particular, became overprotective of her son, bordering on fixation. As a result of financial difficulties, the family moved to Admiral Grove, another neighborhood in Dingle, in 1944. Shortly afterward, Starkey's parents separated, and they finalized their divorce within the year. Starkey has few memories of his father, as he made little effort to bond with him and visited only a handful of times after the separation. Elsie struggled to make ends meet on the support payments of 30 shillings a week from her ex-husband. To supplement her income, she took on various menial jobs, including cleaning houses, before eventually securing a position as a barmaid, a job she held for 12 years. When Richard Starkey was 6 years old, he suffered from appendicitis, leading to a routine appendectomy. Unfortunately, complications arose, and he developed peritonitis, slipping into a coma for several days. His recovery took a toll, lasting 12 months, during which he was hospitalized at Liverpool's Myrtle Street Children's Hospital, away from his family. Upon his discharge in May 1948, his mother allowed him to remain at home, causing him to miss school. By the age of 8, he still struggled with literacy and math, feeling alienated at school and often skipping classes at Sefton Park. To catch up academically, he received tutoring twice a week from his neighbor, Marie Maguire Crawford, who acted as a surrogate sister. Despite progress, in 1953, he contracted tuberculosis and spent 2 years in a sanatorium. During his stay, he found solace in music when encouraged to join the hospital band. This marked his introduction to percussion instruments, sparking his passion for drumming. He received a convalescence gift, a copy of the Alan Ainsworth song, Bedtime for Drums, from Crawford, further fueling his interest. Attending St. Silas Primary School and later Dingle Vale Secondary Modern School, he excelled in art, drama, and practical subjects like mechanics. However, prolonged hospitalizations caused him to fall behind academically, rendering him ineligible for the 11+ exam required for grammar school admission. In 1954, his mother married Harry Graves, a music enthusiast who introduced Starkey to various artists and genres. After his recovery from tuberculosis, Starkey decided not to return to school, preferring to immerse himself in music at home. He would listen to recordings and play along, using biscuit tins as makeshift drums. Bob Spitz, a Beatles biographer, painted a grim picture of Richard Starkey's early life, describing it as a Dickensian chronicle of misfortune. The houses in his neighborhood were cramped, poorly ventilated, and often in disrepair, with rear doors opening onto outhouses. Marie Maguire Crawford, a neighbor, remarked that families in the Dingle, including Starkey's, faced constant struggles to survive. To escape the harsh living conditions, Children spent much of their time at Prince's Park, seeking relief from the pollution of their coal-fueled environment. Additionally, the prevalence of violent crime in one of Liverpool's oldest and poorest inner-city districts added to the challenges faced by residents. Starkey himself recalled the need to keep a low profile and avoid trouble. Upon returning home from the sanatorium in late 1955, Starkey entered the workforce but struggled to find direction. His initial attempts at employment were unsuccessful, and he lacked motivation and discipline. In a bid to obtain warm clothing, he briefly worked as a railway worker for British Rail, but his inability to pass the physical examination led to his dismissal. He then took a job as a waiter on a day boat traveling from Liverpool to North Wales, but quit due to his fear of being conscripted into military service. In mid-1956, Starkey's stepfather, Harry Graves, arranged for him to work as an apprentice machinist at Henry Hunt & Son, a Liverpool school equipment manufacturer. It was there that Starkey formed a friendship with Roy Trafford, who introduced him to skiffle music, sparking his passion for the genre. First bands. After Roy Trafford introduced Richard Starkey to skiffle music, the duo started practicing songs in the cellar of their workplace during lunch breaks. Trafford reminisced about those sessions, recalling how Starkey improvised percussion using whatever was at hand, a biscuit tin with keys or the backs of chairs. Their musical endeavors expanded when Eddie Miles, another colleague and neighbor of Starkey's, joined them. Together they formed the Eddie Miles Band, later renaming themselves Eddie Clayton and the Clayton Squares after a local landmark in Liverpool. Their repertoire included popular skiffle tunes like Rock Island Line and Walking Cane, with Starkey adding rhythmic texture by playing a washboard with a thimble. Starkey, influenced by his parents' love for dancing, briefly took dance lessons with Trafford at two different schools. Although their foray into dancing was short-lived, it equipped them with enough skill to enjoy nights out in town confidently. On Christmas Day in 1957, Harry Graves gifted Starkey a second-hand drum kit, consisting of a snare drum, bass drum, and a makeshift cymbal made from a rubbish bin lid. Despite its simplicity, the drum kit propelled Starkey's musical journey and boosted the Eddie Clayton Band's commercial appeal. They secured notable gigs around Liverpool until the decline of the skiffle genre in early 1958, coinciding with the rise of American rock and roll in the UK. In November 1959, Starkey joined Al Caldwell's Texans, a skiffle group seeking a drummer with a proper drum kit to transition into a rock and roll band. Initially known as the Raging Texans, and later as Jet Storm and the Raging Texans, they eventually settled on the name Rory Storm and the Hurricanes. It was around this time that Starkey adopted the stage name Ringo Starr, inspired by the rings he wore and hinting at a country and western influence. His singing solos became known as Star Time. By the beginning of 1960, the Hurricanes had risen to prominence as one of Liverpool's leading bands. In May of that year, they received an offer for a 3-month residency at a Butlins holiday camp in Wales. Initially hesitant to accept the offer and leave behind his 5-year apprenticeship as a machinist, which he had started 4 years earlier, Starr eventually agreed to the opportunity. Their stint at Butlins opened doors to other prospects, including a less-than-pleasant tour of U.S. Air Force bases in France, an experience Starr described as unfavorable due to tension between the British and French. The success of the Hurricanes reached a point where they were offered a highly sought-after residency in Hamburg. Initially, they declined the offer due to their existing commitment with Butlins. However, they eventually changed their minds and accepted the opportunity. This decision led them to share the stage with the Beatles at Bruno Koschmider's Kaiserkeller on October 1, 1960, marking Starr's first encounter with the band. Despite the Beatles' presence, the Hurricanes received top billing and higher pay. During his time in Hamburg, Starr had the chance to perform with the Beatles as a stand-in drummer. On October 15, 1960, he joined John Lennon, Paul McCartney, and George Harrison in recording for the first time, while backing Hurricanes singer Lou Walters on the George Gershwin DuBose Hayward aria Summertime. It was during this period that Starr also crossed paths with Tony Sheridan, who admired his drumming skills to the extent of inviting him to leave the Hurricanes and join his band, replacing Best. In January 1962, Starr made the decision to leave Rory Storm and the Hurricanes. He briefly joined Sheridan in Hamburg before returning to the Hurricanes for a third season at Butlins. On August 14th, Starr accepted Lennon's invitation to join the Beatles. However, on August 16th, Beatles manager Brian Epstein delivered bad news to their drummer, Pete Best, informing him that the band wanted him out and Starr in. Best recalled feeling blindsided, stating that Epstein mentioned George Martin's dissatisfaction with his playing and the band's belief that he didn't fit in. Starr made his debut performance with the Beatles on August 18, 1962, at a Horticultural Society dance at Port Sunlight. However, the transition wasn't smooth, as Best's supporters expressed their disappointment by holding vigils outside his house and the Cavern Club, chanting, "Pete forever, Ringo never." The situation escalated, with Harrison even sustaining a black eye from an upset fan, prompting Epstein to hire a temporary bodyguard after their car tires were slashed. Starr's initial recording session with the Beatles took place on September 4, 1962. Martin initially had doubts about Starr's abilities, feeling he couldn't play percussion and drums simultaneously. For their second recording session on September 11, 1962, Martin replaced Starr with session drummer Andy White for the recording of Love Me Do and P.S. I Love You. Despite feeling uncertain about his future in the band, Starr gradually won over Beatles fans by November 1962. Acceptance from fans and an equal share of fan mail helped solidify Starr's position within the band. He considered himself fortunate to be on the same wavelength as the other Beatles and received a small percentage of Lennon and McCartney's publishing company, Northern Songs. Starr's lifestyle after achieving success with the Beatles was characterized by a non-stop party atmosphere, reminiscent of his father's penchant for late-night dancing, for which he earned praise. Worldwide success. Throughout 1963, the Beatles experienced a surge in popularity in Britain. Their second single, Please Please Me, entered the UK charts in January, following the success of Love Me Do. A well-received television appearance on Thank Your Lucky Stars further boosted their sales and radio play. By the year's end, Beatlemania had taken the country by storm, and by February 1964, the Beatles achieved international fame with their performance on The Ed Sullivan Show in New York City, watched by a record-breaking 73 million viewers. Reflecting on their U.S. success, Starr remarked on the overwhelming response from fans, noting that they had become personalities appreciated by ordinary people. During this time, Starr served as inspiration for various songs, such as Penny Valentine's I Want to Kiss Ringo Goodbye and Rolf Harris's Ringo for President. Cher even released her debut single, Ringo I Love You, in 1964 under the pseudonym Bonnie Jo Mason. I Love Ringo lapel pins became top-selling Beatles merchandise in the same year. Notably, the prominent display of the Ludwig logo on Starr's American import drum kit provided significant publicity for the company, solidifying its position as a dominant drum manufacturer in North America for the next 2 decades. During live performances, the Beatles maintained the Starr time routine, with Lennon setting up a microphone in front of Starr's kit for his spotlight moments, often met with screams of excitement from the audience. In their film debut, A Hard Day's Night, Starr impressed critics with his delivery of deadpan one-liners and his non-speaking scenes, despite having had little sleep the night before. Epstein attributed Starr's success to his unique charm and personality. Following the release of their second film, Help, 1965, Starr's performance earned him accolades in a Melody Maker poll, surpassing his fellow Beatles as the central character in the film. During a 1964 interview with Playboy, Lennon revealed that Starr had stepped in for Best when he fell ill, to which Starr quipped, "Best took little pills to make him ill." Following this exchange, Best filed a libel suit against Starr, leading to a 4-year legal battle that concluded with an undisclosed settlement in Best's favor. In June of that year, the Beatles had a tour planned across Denmark, the Netherlands, Asia, Australia, and New Zealand. However, Starr fell ill with a high-grade fever, pharyngitis, and tonsillitis just before the tour commenced. He spent some time in a local hospital and then recuperated at home for several days. As a result, 24-year-old session drummer Jimmy Nicol filled in for Starr for 5 concerts. Starr rejoined the band in Melbourne on 15th of June, fearing he might be permanently replaced during his illness. In August, the Beatles met American songwriter Bob Dylan, who introduced them to cannabis cigarettes. Starr was the first to try one, although the others were initially hesitant. On 11th February 1965, Starr married Maureen Cox, whom he had met in 1962. By this time, the stress and pressure of Beatlemania had taken its toll on him. He received a death threat before a show in Montreal, prompting him to position his cymbals vertically as a makeshift defense. The constant pressure affected the band's performances, with Starr noting, "We were turning into such bad musicians. There was no groove to it." He also felt increasingly isolated from his bandmates' musical activities, spending recording sessions playing cards with their road managers while the others worked on tracks. In response to a fan's letter published in Melody Maker asking for more of Starr's vocals on albums, he expressed contentment with his limited contributions. The band breaks up. While Lennon and McCartney received widespread acclaim for their songwriting prowess, Starr's contributions often went underappreciated. Renowned for his skillful drumming, he also played a significant role in the group's creative process and contributed to their emotional stability and good humor. Unlike previous drummers who remained in the background, Starr was viewed as an integral part of the Fab Four. Despite not matching his bandmates' songwriting prowess, he was allotted one song on each album, a setup that suited him fine. His distinctive drumming style played a pivotal role in shaping the Beatles' iconic sound, leaving a lasting impact on future generations of drummers. In 1966, the Beatles ceased touring, concluding with their final concert at San Francisco's Candlestick Park in August. However, they continued to innovate in the studio, exploring new musical avenues. They crafted one of rock's inaugural concept albums with Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, 1967, is designed to be listened to from start to finish. Among their commercial and critical triumphs was The Beatles, commonly known as the White Album, in 1968, featuring Starr's contribution with the track Don't Pass Me By. During the recording of the White Album, tensions ran high among the group members, with each feeling disconnected from the others. Starr, in particular, noticed himself increasingly sidelined during recording sessions, such as when McCartney recorded Why Don't We Do It in the Road solo. Feeling left out, Starr made the bold decision to leave the band, marking the first time a member had done so. Realizing their oversight and the significance of Starr's contribution, his bandmates sent him telegrams expressing their appreciation, hailing him as the world's best drummer. Upon his return to the studio, Starr was greeted with his drum kit adorned with roses, forming the message, "Welcome back, Ringo." The band reunited, albeit temporarily. As personal and creative tensions continued to mount, Starr delved into other projects, including a role in the film The Magic Christian, 1969, alongside Peter Sellers. Their final performance together took place atop the Apple Corps Leonted building in London, captured for the concert film Let It Be, 1970. In April 1970, the Beatles officially disbanded following Paul McCartney's announcement of his departure from the group. With over 45 top 40 hits in the United States alone, the Beatles concluded their illustrious career, leaving an indelible mark on millions of fans worldwide. Ringo Starr's solo career faltered fast. Following the breakup of the Beatles in 1970, each member pursued solo careers, including Ringo Starr, who had fewer appearances on Beatles tracks. Despite an initial setback with the underperforming Beaucoup of Blues, Starr saw success with his next 8 singles, including chart toppers like Photograph and You're 16, all reaching the top 10 in the U.S. Both his albums Ringo and Goodnight Vienna achieved platinum and gold status, respectively. However, public interest seemed to wane for the former Beatles drummer. In 1976, amidst Paul McCartney's hit Silly Love Songs, Starr's album, Ringo's Rotogravure, only reached number 28 on the charts, with singles A Dose of Rock and Roll and Hey Baby failing to gain traction. His subsequent albums, Ringo IV, 1977, and Bad Boy, 1978, fared even worse, peaking at number 162 and number 129 on the Billboard album chart, respectively. Following a dispute with his label, it took Starr 3 years to release more music, culminating in 1981's Stop and Smell the Roses. While he experienced a modest resurgence with the number 38 hit Rack My Brain, written by former bandmate George Harrison, Stop and Smell the Roses performed poorly, leading RCA Records to drop Starr. After reaching unprecedented success as a Beatle, Starr found himself without a recording contract. In 2001, Starr reflected on the downturn in his career, attributing it to a lack of focus on music. He admitted that he and his friends, including Nielsen and Keith Moon, were more immersed in drugs and alcohol than in their musical pursuits. They even formed a drinking club known as the Hollywood Vampires. In November 1976, Starr attended the band's farewell concert, which was documented in Martin Scorsese's film The Last Waltz. Around the same time, he released his album Ringo's Rotogravure, marking his debut under a new contract with Atlantic Records in North America and Polydor elsewhere. In April 1979, Starr faced a severe health scare due to complications from his previous battle with peritonitis. His condition worsened, leading to hospitalization at the Princess Grace Hospital in Monte Carlo. The situation became critical, and on April 28th, surgeons performed a life-saving operation, during which several feet of his intestine had to be removed. Despite his recent health ordeal, Starr managed to join McCartney and Harrison for a performance at Eric Clapton's wedding just 3 weeks later. However, tragedy struck again on November 28th when a fire engulfed his Hollywood home, resulting in the destruction of a significant portion of his Beatles memorabilia. Apart from his musical talents, Starr also gained recognition for his acting abilities. Critics and industry insiders praised his performances on screen, with director and producer Walter Shenson hailing him as a superb actor, an absolute natural. Starr's love for movies blossomed in the mid-1960s, leading to roles in iconic films such as A Hard Day's Night, Help, Magical Mystery Tour, and Let It Be. He has also authored several books, including Postcards from the Boys in 2004, Octopus's Garden in 2014, and Photograph in 2015. Love, Loss, and Legacy. In 1962, Starr crossed paths with hairdresser Maureen Cox, coincidentally the same week he joined the Beatles. Their relationship blossomed, culminating in their marriage in February 1965, with Beatles manager Brian Epstein serving as best man, and Starr's stepfather Harry Graves and fellow Beatle George Harrison as witnesses. However, their marriage became the inspiration for the novelty song Treat Him Tender, Maureen by the Chiclets. Together, they welcomed 3 children, Zach, Jason, and Lee. In 1971, Starr purchased Lennon's former home, Tittenhurst Park in Berkshire, and relocated his family there. However, their marriage faced challenges, ultimately leading to divorce in 1975 due to Starr's repeated infidelities. Tragically, Cox passed away from leukemia at the age of 48 in 1994. In 1980, Starr crossed paths with actress Barbara Bach on the set of the film Caveman, and the pair tied the knot at Marylebone Town Hall on 27 April 1981. Their union marked the beginning of a new chapter, with Starr becoming the first Beatle to become a grandfather in 1985 upon the birth of Zach's daughter, Tatia Jane Starkey. Over the years, Starr and Bach welcomed 8 grandchildren, 2 from Zach, 3 from Jason, and 3 from Lee. Their family continued to grow, with Starr becoming a great-grandfather in 2016. Starr and Bach divide their time between residences in Cranley, Sussex, Los Angeles, and Monte Carlo. With a considerable fortune, Starr has been listed among the wealthiest musicians, retaining properties in Surrey and London. Despite changes in their real estate holdings, Starr and Bach maintain a presence in both London and Los Angeles, embracing the best of both worlds. In December 2015, Starr and Bach decided to auction off a selection of their personal and professional belongings through Julien's Auctions in Los Angeles. Among the items were Starr's iconic first Ludwig Black Oyster Pearl drum kit, instruments gifted to him by Harrison Lennon and Mark Bolan, as well as a rare first-pressing copy of the Beatles' White Album, numbered 0.01. The auction garnered over $9 million in total proceeds, with a portion earmarked for the Lotus Foundation, a charitable organization founded by Starr and Bach. In 2016, Starr publicly voiced his support for the United Kingdom's decision to withdraw from the European Union, expressing his belief that while the EU was initially promising, its recent trajectory seemed lacking. Similarly, in 2017, he reiterated his impatience for Britain to proceed with Brexit, emphasizing the importance of national sovereignty. However, in October 2021, Starr found himself embroiled in controversy when he was named in the Pandora Papers, which detailed alleged secret financial arrangements involving politicians and celebrities utilizing tax havens to evade tax obligations. Outside of his career and philanthropic endeavors, Starr leads a mindful lifestyle. He adheres to a vegetarian diet, although he has allergies to garlic and onions, as confirmed by Mary McCartney. Additionally, he practices daily meditation and has adopted peace and love as his enduring catchphrase and life motto. He is currently the richest drummer in the world, with a net worth estimated at $300 million, and is a staple of top 10 drummer lists even today, with other artists citing him as an influence and an inspiration. Starr has 7 grandchildren, and in August 2016 he became the first Beatle to become a great-grandfather. Along with the rest of the Beatles, Ringo was awarded an MBE in 1965. In 2018, he was knighted by Prince William. Along with joking that he was a bit shaky today on my own, he noted how much the honor meant to him. From his groundbreaking role as the drummer of the Beatles to his successful solo career and philanthropic efforts, Starr has left an indelible mark on the world of music and beyond. As we reflect on his life and legacy, let's consider the impact he has had on generations of fans and aspiring musicians alike. What is your favorite memory or song from Ringo Starr's career? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates on music legends like Ringo Starr. See you next time.